The entire buy now, pay later system is a scam. It doesn't matter if it's credit cards, Afterpay, Klarna, all of it. Because they make you feel like you can afford something when you clearly can't. Because if you could afford it, you would just pay for it outright. Then when you finally get paid and you go to pay that stuff, you look back in your bank account and you're like, damn, I'm back at zero again. With that being said, I'm extremely happy to see that Klarna is losing money in the first quarter. They know that the target market that they go after does not really have money to spend. These are people that can't really afford to be using Klarna in the first place. They know it. So they let you nickel and dime your way to burgers, clothes, all kinds of stuff. Do y'all remember earlier in the year when Klarna said that they were going to partner with DoorDash? The food company, DoorDash. Yeah. To let you put a meal on payment plans? Can y'all believe that? Do you know how direly poor you have to be financing a Five Guys burger? You have to be direly poor to be making installment payments on food. But that lets you know the customer base that Klarna is going after. And for them, it makes sense. You know, it's more poor people than there are people with money. So it's a larger demographic of people that they can advertise their services to. But those people, they can't afford food today. So if they can't afford it today, when they get paid, they're not going to be able to pay you back, which is why Klarna is losing all of this money. By the way, before we get into the details, like the video, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. Let's keep this train rolling. So I got a short article here. As usual, I'm going to read it to you guys for those that are not paying attention to the screen or just like having the sound of my voice. Klarna saw its losses jump in the first quarter as a popular buy now, pay later firm applies the brakes on a hotly anticipated U.S. IPO. IPO is when a company first goes public. You know, all of the early investors, they're going to make their money as this goes public and gets dumped onto an exchange. The Swedish payments startup said its net losses for the first 3 months of 2025 totaled basically $100 million, significantly worse than the $47 million loss it reported a year ago. Klarna said this was due to several one-off costs related to depreciation, share-based payments, and restructuring. Revenues at the firm increased 13% year over year to $701 billion. Klarna said it has 100 million active users and 724,000 merchant partners. I don't know if that's supposed to be 72,400, whatever, globally. They have a bunch of partners globally. So they're up 13% year over year. So they're making money on the top line, but it's obviously not hitting the bottom line. They're essentially bleeding money. It comes as Klarna remains in pause mode regarding a highly anticipated U.S. IPO that was at one stage set to value the SoftBank-backed company at over $15 billion. They had a lot of money to gain. They didn't gain it because they're not going to go public anymore. But somebody's about to be very rich. Klarna put its IPO plans on hold last month due to market turbulence caused by Donald Trump's sweeping tariff plans. Online ticketing platform StubHub also put its IPO plans on ice. I don't believe that. I don't believe that not one bit. I think that they realize that their target demographic is poor people and they're not making any money, because if people had the money to pay for the things that they're financing anyway, they just pay for them outright. Prior to the IPO delay, Klarna had been in a marketing blitz touting itself as an artificial intelligence powered fintech. The company partnered with ChatGPT, the maker of OpenAI, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Last week, Klarna CEO Sebastian, I'm not reading his last name. That's a crazy name. Said the company was able to shrink its headcount by about 40%, in part due to investments in AI. Well, there you go. They tried to shrink the headcount and save some money, and apparently it didn't work. They're still bleeding money. So they said they have about 100 million people using the buy now, pay later service. And that's only for Klarna. So you got to imagine how many other people are using Afterpay, or I don't know if Apple has one, but other services just besides Klarna. I think this is WeWork all over again. We saw this with WeWork where the company was about to go IPO and after they pulled the curtain back and looked into the financials, it turned out to be not as great a deal as it was supposed to be. I think that's what you get when your target demographic is literally the poor and suffering. Because these people, they don't have the money to pay back Klarna. They're worried about their rent. They're worried about putting food on the table. They're worried about gas. Klarna, just like the credit cards, they're going to be at the bottom of that list. They'll just let the debt grow. And people have to pay back their student loans now. So Klarna is definitely not a priority. And that's where the economic uncertainty is coming from. They're talking about tariffs. Tariffs are not to blame. The fact that you're targeting poor people, this is like payday loan type stuff that's going on with Klarna. And they thought that they could take all of the people's disposable income and drive you into debt, just like the credit card companies. And it's not working out for them. They're not seeing the return on investment that they thought that they would see. They thought if you just finance, a Five Guys burger, $2 a day for the next 30 months, that they were going to recoup. The people that are doing that don't have the money to pay back Klarna in the first place. These companies, they try to give you like this illusion, like, oh, we're helping you. If you just pay us 4 $25 payments. No, it's not a help. It's just like these credit card companies. They want to keep you on a hamster wheel. That's why I'm an advocate for no debt, none of it. Not cars, not credit cards, not student loans. I do have a mortgage though. That's a hard one to avoid because it's such a huge expense. But if I had the money, I would absolutely play that off too. Because when you have no debt, you can move differently. You breathe a little differently. You don't feel like you're being choked out by your bills. But these companies, they prey on the fact that you want to have something right now. So they pretend like what they're giving you, the advantage that they offer is in your best interest. So you could buy the thing right now, knowing that you don't need it. I've been there though. I had some credit cards. I had a car note. I wanted to ride in something new, something clean, especially when I was outside. I know how I feel to pull up in a car, you're the first owner. So I get it. But a new car does not feel nearly as good as a car that's already paid off. And what definitely feels better than all of that is watching your savings, your investment increase because you're able to actually save some money instead of nickel and diming all of these expenses up front and then having to pay them on the back end. I'm getting off topic. This was about Afterpay. This is about Klarna, all of these buy now, pay later systems, credit cards. But don't throw your power away. Having money in your account, having money stashed aside there's power in that. There's leverage in that. And we know most Americans can't afford a $400 emergency. So I'm glad to see that Klarna is burning itself to the ground. I hope it continues. And I hope people have better financial education, make better decisions with their money, and we can all live just a little better and sleep a little more peacefully at night. But we're not giving 1,000 different companies $25 here, $25 there, and then leaving us broke at the end of the month. Those are my thoughts. If you like the video, subscribe to me back here for the next conversation. And if you have something to say, let the world know. This is the place for discourse. Until next time, peace.